It's House Music Friday, even though it's not even Friday.
It's not house music.
Is it not?
I don't know. I don't know what it is called these days. I'm so out of touch.
Yeah, that's right. This is a Lazy Money Machine podcast with Erik ten Hava, Graham Brown. We talk about passive income, lifestyle design, and almost anything in the middle. We like to grab celebrities to listen to what they have to say, or we look at articles in the news. But we usually grab something that gets our conversation started and then see where we go with it. Today we have audio, so let's listen in.
Right before you get drafted, you get $1 million for an endorsement deal.
And I spend it in one day.
How'd you do it?
I go buy a $150,000 car. No negotiations. I don't know nothing about negotiations. Guy could have told me $200,000, I would have bought it. So I go and I get a black Mercedes because that's what I always wanted. Black Mercedes and some nice wheels. Guy was like $150. Write the check. And I come home. My father's like, "That's nice. Where's mine?" I was like, "You know what? You made me who I am. Jump in." So we ride. Told the guy, I want another one, same one I got. So there go $300,000 right there. So we get home, and my mom was like, "Oh, that's nice. I don't want one that big. I want a little one." So I go get my mom one. There's $500,000 right there. So now I got to get suits for the draft. I got to get jewelry. I got to get earrings. You know, I got to buy the Alpine pull-out deck. So when I go to the club, I got it with me. I got to get the alarm that calls the beeper and the phone. So a couple of days later, I get a call from the bank, who was a family friend, the manager of the bank, and he called me and he said, "You know how to read bank statements?" I was like, "Yeah, I learned it in school." So as I was reading it, I was $80,000 in the hole, and I was looking, and I was real embarrassed. And he was like, "I know you got more money coming in. I'm gonna just put this to the side for you." Then he touched my hand and he said, "Son, I watched you play here at high school. You're bright. You're a smart young man. I don't want you to be like all these other athletes." I always hear that term all my life. I don't want you to be like all these other athletes. So I said, "You know what? I got to get a financial advisor." And then I met one little small, beautiful Jewish man who says, "I'm in the savings bonds. You know, we're going to put your money and, you know, we're going to start a sub-chapter S corporation from your family. So, you know, all the stuff that you're doing, you can write it off." I was like, "You know what? Shalom. Baruch Hashem. I'm going with you, sir."
I tend to like people that spend a lot of money, I noticed.
Yeah.
I found a lot of clips of people that like to spend. Maybe because I don't. Maybe that's why.
Yeah. You're living vicariously through these.
Shoot. I need to change one. Who was that? One of the biggest guys in basketball. Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaquille O'Neal, yeah.
Shaquille
Now you
O'Neal.
say it makes sense, but I could never guess it without. Yeah, there you go. Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq. Wow.
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Graham Bensinger. He's the guy where I found this audio clip. He does fantastic long interviews with people. Usually spends a few days with them. So he did with Shaquille O'Neal. He has his own YouTube channel. You can go and check him out. He does lots of great interviews. And here's a guy that that in his life has spent $1 million in one day. So I thought, now if I need to learn from anyone how to spend money, it's from this guy, I think. So unbelievable. $1 million in one day.
I think, you know, the problem is that, again, it's the people they're surrounded by, the expectations. You don't have to go out and spend $1 million, do you?
No.
So why do they feel that they have to do that? I mean, you know, the father says, like, "Where's my one?"
Yeah. And
I don't know. I mean,
he gets the same Mercedes as Shaq gets. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, and it happens over and over and over again. There's so many examples of, you know, celebrity, artist, you know, athlete who just completely goes and blows his money away. Yeah. Yet what he said is, you know, he got a business manager pretty quickly. And actually why I wanted to play this clip is because he says, you know, this advisor that he gets, this small Jewish guy, as he calls it him in the interview, is telling him, "I don't want you to end up like all the other athletes." And it rang a bell with him. And he's been so lucky, I think, that he found somebody like that and trusted somebody like this. Because in the interview, he explained some other people that he's been working with who clearly were not, you know, looking after his interest, but their own interest. And then he says, I'm blessed that I found this guy because he was really, you know, he put a conservative plan for me in place to, you know, put my money away, structure a company so that my family is safe, etc. and keeps him sane. That's what he says, right?
Yeah, because it's not something that would come naturally, I suppose, to pick a financial advisor like that. Because people don't trust other people with their money, do they?
So how can you find a good financial advisor?
Well, I used to be a financial advisor, and my experience tells me you don't need a financial advisor.
Right.
You just need good financial advice.
Yeah.
I think it's the main thing. Because the problem with financial advisors, and sort of to go back to my point about people don't trust them, is that most financial advisors are effectively sales guys.
Yeah.
They're selling you financial products. So, they work on commission one way or another. They make more money the more you buy. And often they're tied to a company as well.
Yes.
So, they may say they're independent, but they're not that independent, right? So, I haven't answered the question, but I think the key is that financial advisors are not the only source of financial advice.
Yeah, and my view on this is that I think you can use financial advisors, but then use the ones that you pay for their advice. So, for instance, if you want to know all the different options that are out there for you to maybe invest your savings, then there are people that will help you put a plan together and being paid for it without selling you any of the investment instruments. I think if you do anything, do that, because it might open your eyes to what's out there in the market. It might help shape your thoughts. I don't think that's bad, but I think if you have these guys that are called financial advisors but are actually there, with a big suitcase full of printed out brochures and go through from one glossy one to the next, I would be very wary, because they're not there to advise you. They're there to sell you, and that they're not in there for your best interest. They're there for whatever product makes them the most money.
Yeah. What you've identified is what the financial services industry is all about, right? It's selling you financial products. And, people called financial advisors are, in the business of selling you stuff and making money for life companies, financial companies, pension funds, and so on. I think the key here, we talk a lot about property, is where can you get financial advice with property? Again, I think this comes back to surrounding yourself with the right people and building teams. We haven't talked a lot about that in the podcast. We do in the book a bit more. But build a team. You don't have to create a payroll, do you? You don't have to employ people. You don't necessarily have to pay people either. But if you can find a builder, an accountant, an investor, like an angel investor, these people know stuff, and you'll learn from them. If you can go to them and say, hey, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve with my property portfolio. Would like to work with you on, if I find something in an auction, would you come and have a look at it? Would you come and, maybe size it up in terms of the cost? Can you give me some advice on what you would fund and what you wouldn't fund and so on? So I think you can get some real advice if you go in and form these teams as well. That's a different way of doing it. I mean, you've had probably more experience of this recently, haven't you? Is that, what do you learn from these people in terms of financial advice?
Yeah, I think you're right. And also, what I found is a lot of people in the property business, they're not stingy with information. They're very open to share their contacts because they've all been in the same situation as you are. And what I found is that for instance, on another side, we do development work here in Jakarta. We have friends here who do the same thing, very close friends of us. We're basically very open about what contractors we're using, what materials we're using, what our cost is, etc. Because if I'm open about what I'm doing, then they are open about what they do, and I can learn from them again. And I think that's really how oftentimes this works. But especially, I think in property, I found that people are usually very willing to get you started, but it needs to come from the point of view of I want to make the effort to learn and get into this business. If it comes from the point of view of please tell me which building to buy and that's it, that kind of advice doesn't really work. But if people are seriously interested in getting into this business, me personally, I'm always quite open about what I'm doing and putting them on the right track if I can. A
lot of the advice that we are looking for is that kind of advice, isn't it? The stuff that you can learn from people. People share information and so on, and that's really valuable. And then there's sort of like the really technical advice, like, okay, let's say you're setting up a company, you need to pay for that kind of advice, right? If it's a specific setup, like you're doing something offshore or you have a complicated structure, that's where you really have to pay to get the advice, and often you can get it from a service provider. So I think it's important to know that there's not just one sort of financial advice, which is the paid financial advisor. There are many other ways to get this advice, and probably better ways as well in many respects.
Yeah, I'm sure. And these people are out there. Would you be interested to listen to Shaquille O'Neal's worst business decision?
Of course.
All right, here we
That's
go.
what it's about.
Yeah, here we go.
It can't
One
be
of
worse
your
than
biggest business.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
I was going to say it can't be worse than $400K on pigeons and cats, but go on.
Yeah, no. Yeah, let's listen in.
One of your biggest business regrets, Starbucks and Howard Schultz.
Worst.
Tell the story.
So my agent calls me up and he says, Howard Schultz wants to do business with you. And I'm like, coffee. Because growing up in my household, never seen a black person drink coffee. So it was my thought process that black people didn't drink coffee. In my house, it was always sweet tea, hot chocolate. I've never seen a person. So I thought they didn't drink coffee. So anyway, Howard says, Shaq, I want to give you the opportunity to go in with me and open up these Starbucks franchises in African-American communities. And I'm always a guy that, if I don't believe in it, can't do it. Won't ever do it. No amount of money can make me endorse something that I'm not 100% behind. So I looked at great Howard Schultz's face and said, black people don't drink coffee, sir. I don't think it's going to work. And you should have seen his face. He was like, all right. And, we're still good friends today, but that was one of my worst business decisions. Because now every time, on every corner, in every city, in every country, I see a Starbucks, I'm like, oh. And then Magic came and did the deal after me, and he just did great with it.
Okay. So he was asked to invest in Starbucks. And he passed on the opportunity.
Well, I think, I mean, you can laugh about it because we've all had that, right? There's probably investments which passed you.
Which I know one. There's a motorbike taxi service here called Gojek, and I vividly remember the founder coming to me with his team, and we back then we were running the SMS business and pitching his business to us, and we were like negotiating about how much we would invest, etc. And I think they didn't agree with our terms. But to be honest, I think in those days, I think we were negotiating about a couple of $100,000 investment. This company has, I don't know how much they have had invested now, but I think it's over $1 billion already at the moment. They're one of the unicorns in Indonesia, and we didn't invest. But then also for me at that time, it's hard to always look back at these things and regret, because at the time it didn't feel right to me, and I might have been right that at that time it wasn't ripe for, let's say, the main stage. And a lot of things have happened ever since I had to make that decision, right? So that's always something we need to remember too. These companies, these opportunities, when we say no, somebody else might say yes to it at another point, at another time in their life cycle.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can't look at these things with regret, I think. I mean, you need to... I always keep in mind that the amount of mistakes I make in terms of number should always outweigh the amount of successful decisions I've made. Hopefully, the net result of that is positive. That's how I look at it. Statistically, I should be making more mistakes than I make the right decisions.
Mm.